Why hip hop is terrified of Frank Ocean. So I'm gonna clip the music. I want to watch this video with y'all. Y'all, if you're in the stream, say what's up down in the chat. But yeah, let's watch this video by Rap Lore. Why hip hop is terrified of Frank Ocean. Let's watch this video.
Frank Ocean is about to direct his very first movie, but will the industry let him get away with it?
There might be some new shit coming out before then.
Frank didn't just disappear. He left the entire music industry in chaos. After humiliating the biggest labels in the business, Frank pulled a once-in-a-lifetime vanishing act. But now he's plotting his next move, and every exec in the game is on edge. What a lot of fans may not realize is that Frank is way more dangerous than people realize, and that's why the entire industry is scrambling. Frank Ocean finessed the music business like nobody ever did before, but did he go too far? How did he orchestrate his most legendary industry scam of all time? What really happened during his violent showdown with the so-called king of R&B? And why are there some insiders convinced that Frank may be blacklisted forever? We've even invested hours of...
Yo, am I crazy to say this, but I feel like, I mean, he's saying Frank's blacklisted from the hip hop game, but bro is, unless he comes back with some crazy, he's talking about films or like dropping a crazy album, him, ASAP Rocky, like these guys been out of the game for so long and have like just all the fans want is something. An EP, an LP, whatever it is. And they're just writing their own demise, man. Like they're killing their own stock in the game. But all right, let's get back to the video.
Combing through the behind-the-scenes reports, court documents, and industry gossip, all to investigate claims that Frank might be destroying his very own legacy. Is Frank really guilty of biting the hand that fed him? And now, after nearly a decade in the shadows, Frank may be plotting something huge. But is he actually going to be able to make his biggest comeback of all time, or has the industry made sure that we'll never hear from him again?
I don't usually finish a song unless I want it finished and want to present it.
One thing's for sure, Frank Ocean may be a menace now, but at the beginning of his career, the music industry had him trapped. Frank moved from New Orleans to LA in 2006 and struggled to make it as a recording artist. When he ran out of money, he hopped from job to job, working at Subway, Fatburger, and Allstate just so he could scrape by. Frank Ocean at Subway is crazy. Nobody wanted to give Frank Ocean a chance on a record deal, but he realized he could make major money as a ghostwriter. We already did a full-scale analysis on how ghostwriting works in the music industry. Frank Ocean discovered...
If anybody knows about who he's written for, I think, I could be mistaken when I say this, but I think he's ghostwritten for Kanye. A lot of people have ghostwritten for Kanye, but I know Frank Ocean, especially around the Watch the Throne era, when he like first started collabing, there's like that famous video of him saying like he's going to New York to collab with two of his favorite artists. I'd have to imagine he's ghostwritten for him, but I wonder who else Frank has ghostwritten for, because there's so many people in the hip hop industry that you don't even know, like, aren't writing their own stuff. It's kind of wild, but all right, let's get back to it.
Discovered that if record execs didn't want to sign him as an artist, he could still help other established stars make records and let the cash roll in. Frank wrote songs for Justin Bieber and John Legend, making enough money so he could move out of South LA and up into Beverly Hills. But there was a very big problem. Frank hated being told what to do, and he wanted to make his own music. And in 2009, Frank finally got a chance to make his dreams come true. He signed a recording contract with Def Jam and was on his way to being a solo artist, but there was another problem. Def Jam had zero intention of actually letting Frank release any music. They didn't even give him a recording budget. They basically signed him to shut him up, trap him in a record deal, and keep him close so he could still keep writing songs for their other artists. So Frank Ocean decided to go completely rogue. He started recording music.
I don't mean to keep pausing this, but this is one of the things that just like truly, the music game sabotages itself, man. It's literally owned by greedy record labels that suck the creativity and suck any life out of these recording artists that just have so much talent, but so much talent gets put to waste because people are just like owned by they're not going to produce music if they're not going to make money off of it. Like it's such a tragedy, man. But anyways, let's get back to it.
Music by himself, and in 2011 he released his debut mixtape Nostalgia Ultra. Within weeks, the entire industry was hyped. Frank was acclaimed as the next big up-and-coming star, and his own label accusing them of trying to hold him back. Quote, Def Jam and any company that goes the length of signing a kid with dreams and talent with no intention of following through. Frank made sure to punish Def Jam for what they did to him. Not only did Frank personally meet with Barry Weiss, the CEO of the label, but he forced the company to write him a check for $1 million. Frank clearly did not come to play. That very same summer, Frank ended up beefing with one of the industry's biggest and most controversial
Man knew his worth. Man knew his
there
worth.
was a disturbance in the studio between artists. Can you confirm it all?
No information.
The whole world was going crazy for Nostalgia Ultra. Hip-hop legends like Jay-Z, Kanye West, and Nas all praised Frank's music and said they wanted to work with him.
My husband was playing this music, and this guy's tone and his lyrics just touched me, and after one song I said, okay, who is that? Because I want to
imagine dropping your debut album and Kanye, Jay-Z, and Nas want to work with you, bro. That's gotta be surreal, bro. Like that's gotta be surreal.
I'm on a flight tonight, and he told me it was Frank Ocean. And I immediately reached out, and he came in the next day, and we did like 5 or 6 songs.
But there was one artist who didn't seem too impressed with the so-called king of R&B, Chris Brown. After listening to Nostalgia Ultra, Chris Brown tweeted, quote, I f with Frank Ocean. Reminds me of a young James Fauntleroy or Kevin Costner. On the surface, that might sound like Breezy's trying to give Frank some props, but when you dig a little deeper, there was a ton of shade behind that cosign. Both James Fauntleroy and Kevin Costner were singers who were way better known for being songwriters than solo artists. Chris Brown was basically saying, hey, that little music you dropped was cool, but stick to writing. Breezy was broadcasting to the entire world that he thought Frank Ocean was nowhere near superstar status and just not on his level. But Frank wasn't having it because he lit Chris Brown.
Hold up, let me see what he has to say.
Frank Ocean responded on Twitter, quote, I f***ed with Chris Brown, reminds me of a young Sisqo or Ike Turner. Sisqo is famous for having the thong song and having dyed his hair blonde, and Ike Turner, meanwhile, was notorious for being violent towards his wife Tina Turner. And
he just said it in the video. I'm not gonna say, you know, because of YouTube policy and Twitch policy and all that, but Chris Brown might not be. A lot of people don't know him for his music. A lot of people know he makes music, but a lot of people don't know him for his music. So to be calling someone out saying that they're not going to know him for his music is a little wild coming from Chris Brown.
Chris Brown had already been convicted of beating his then girlfriend Rihanna in 2009. Chris then got mad as hell and responded, quote, at Frank Ocean, it was a compliment, you bitch ass nigga. Everyone claims to be the devil till they meet him. Frank's friend Tyler, the Creator, who was affiliated with Frank through their group,
Tyler looked like a nerd,
jumped in and fully clowned on Chris Brown, calling him a stunt double for a highlighter.
Wow.
That's hilarious. A couple days later, Frank Ocean pulled up to the LA studio where Chris was recording new music and waited for him in the parking lot. According to reports, Chris's cousins found out that Frank was waiting for him outside and they decided to press him. When Frank saw that he was about to get jumped, he hopped in the car and took off. But Chris's crew wasn't done. They chased the car out into LA traffic. That's mad reckless. Video got posted on social media that showed Chris's cousins screaming at Frank.
Bro, World Star used to be peak.
Apparently, Frank wanted to
World Star used to be peak
with Chris Brown, but he wasn't about to let himself get packed out by Chris's entire entourage. Tensions had definitely escalated, and people were concerned that the whole situation was spiraling out of control, especially since Chris is notorious for claiming an affiliation with the Fruit Town Pyrus in LA. Chris decided to defuse the situation by tweeting, quote, this beef beef is stupid at Frank Ocean. I respect your music and you and Odd Future. Ain't beefing with nobody. Y'all could have that. Love.
Gotta love a
Tyler
little bit of
co-signed the peace
positivity.
treaty, responding, quote, "Shit got too real on both ends. I'm over it." But Frank stayed silent. Later that year, Frank announced to the world that he was gay, and rumors surfaced that Chris Brown was talking trash about him behind the scenes. Chris again jumped on Twitter to dead the rumors directly. Quote, "My opinion on the whole Frank Ocean subject is, love who you want to love. It's your decision. People stop searching for BS." That was until January 28th of 2013. Chris was working at Westlake Studio in LA when Frank pulled up and decided to block Chris's car in, preventing him from leaving.
That's
When
mad
Chris's
petty,
team
bro.
confronted Frank and asked him to move the car,
That's mad
Frank
petty.
reportedly refused and claimed, quote, "This is my studio, this is my parking space." According to the police report, Chris Brown tried to piece it up and reached out to shake
So
Frank's
pretty much
hand,
all I'm hearing
but
is Frank stands
didn't
on
budge.
business.
That's when Breezy allegedly punched Frank, starting an all-out brawl in the parking lot. Over 6 people were involved in the fight, and Frank later told police that he heard someone called him the F slang and that someone threatened to bust on him. Chris fled the scene, but Frank
Hey. Hey, yo. Hey, yo. He said, yo, come bust on me. All right, we'll proceed.
Frank stuck around to talk to police. He declined to file charges, but later tweeted about the fight, accusing Chris Brown of sucker punching him. Quote, "Got jumped by Chris and a couple guys, LOL." Just a few days later, Chris Brown and Frank Ocean were both in attendance at the 2013 Grammys, where they were competing against each other in the same category. Frank ended up winning Best R&B Album. And
I didn't
while
know
Breezy
Channel
could be
Orange won
seen
Best
clapping,
R&B. That's
he definitely
pretty cool.
did not participate in the
Channel
standing
Orange, all right.
ovation. But that
Not
wasn't
better
the
than
last
Blonde, though.
time that Frank's name would be dragged into beef. In 2015, Miguel claimed during an interview that he makes better music hands down than Frank. Miguel later clarified
Dang, bro,
his
it's
comments
all-
by saying that there was no need to compare.
This is that thing that annoys me with certain people, bro. They try to say that they're not. They're obviously jealous, bro. They're like, they do the most underlying stuff. That's all that is, bro. Dudes know that they're getting just. They're getting outplayed. They're getting outperformed. And they just got to do that in order to save their own name. I don't have a PC, actually. Everything I stream is from my MacBook. I have a MacBook Air. It's a pretty fire laptop. That's why I stream everything from. And this right here is a Logitech Facecam. I just got it pretty recently. So the Facecam is external, but everything else, microphone, all that, broadcasting to you is a MacBook. MacBook is... It depends what you want to run. What are you looking to run? I run my Xbox onto my MacBook. Literally, you connect HDMI and boom. The MacBook's pretty good for streaming, man. If you're looking to just start out with streaming and you have a MacBook or any type of laptop, you can literally stream anything you're looking to stream. You can stream stuff from an HDMI on a TV. You can stream YouTube. You can stream, just broadcast your screen. Like, you could do everything. The mic is pretty good. The face cam's all right. I personally just got an external face cam.
Compare apples and oranges. I mean, that's
All right,
just
back
a
to the
better way
video.
say it. The Migos even dragged Frank's name into another beef after accusations surfaced that the group was homophobic. When Atlanta artist I Love McConan came out as gay, Quavo, Offset, and Takeoff were vocally unhappy that he was getting support from other artists. Quavo later defended himself, claiming that he couldn't be homophobic because he had a record with Frank Ocean called Slide. Despite everybody bringing up his name,
What do you mean
Frank
Logic
did
Pro?
not make any public
Is that like a
response.
certain
He
software
clearly
that I'm not
wanted the
familiar
music
with?
to speak for itself. And in 2016, Frank used his music to finesse the very label that tried to keep him down.
He didn't put out an album in 4 years, and with his deal, he literally figured out how to get 20 million from Lucian Grange, drop his deal, figure out how to make the funds apply to a whole nother album, give him a bullshit album, get out his deal all in one round.
Frank Ocean's first album, Chanel Orange, was celebrated.
So the whole reason we don't have Frank albums is because these record deals are just absolute douchebags to him. And many other artists. I wonder if that's the same with Rocky. Maybe Rocky can get off his deal and then Rocky's going to drop us an album. I don't know. Hopefully that's the case. Hopefully Frank and Rocky get off these records and they finally could drop something for us, but maybe it all makes sense now. Maybe Frank's standing on business. Frank has been standing on business this whole time.
Rated as a groundbreaking, Grammy Award-winning instant classic. But it took years for Frank to deliver his sophomore project. His long-awaited follow-up album, rumored to be called Boys Don't Cry, was plagued by endless delays and missed release dates, driving fans' hype sky high. When Frank later admitted he was suffering from writer's block, it also turns out he was putting together a master plan to get revenge.
Creative block is real.
And walk away with a major bag in the process. In an interview, Frank Ocean described his relationship with Def Jam as a 7-year chess game, and on August 19th of 2016, Frank was finally ready to make his final move. Frank surprised fans by releasing a streaming-only visual album on Apple Music called Endless. The
Did not know. I might have to go check that out.
45-minute video of Frank building a staircase while music played in the background. While critics generally said they liked the project, fans definitely agreed that it was kind of a weird way to follow up Chanel Orange. It turns out that Endless was just a pump fake to get Frank out of his record deal with Def Jam. After releasing Endless, Frank's obligation to the label was done, and he was now free to release his actual second album with no strings attached. The very next day, Frank went back-to-back and surprise dropped the real album, Blonde. Blonde topped the Billboard charts with 275,000 copies and was ranked by music critics as one of the greatest albums of all time.
That's valid.
But by dropping Blonde independently, Frank Ocean ensured that he alone would reap the rewards of the album's huge financial success, and Def Jam wouldn't see a single dime. Chestnut checkers. Frank is estimated to have netted over $20 million in profit because of how he released Blonde. Meanwhile, Def Jam, who had zero idea that Blonde was even a thing, was left holding the bag with a visual album that they couldn't really sell or monetize. Frank had gotten his revenge against the
God's work right there.
Humiliating record executives like no one had ever seen done before. But Frank was about to find out that running off on the plug comes with consequences.
Most people have a hard time predicting where I might be or what I might be doing.
As a newly independent artist, Frank Ocean was technically free to drop music however he wanted, whenever he wanted, but he was also responsible for managing his affairs completely solo without the backing and support of a major label behind him. With Blonde, Frank was able to collect streaming and sales profits himself, but that also meant he was responsible for paying out royalties. In 2018, Blonde producer Omaz Keith sued Frank Ocean, claiming that he was owed unpaid royalties from the album. Frank countersued Omaz Keith after the producer claimed he deserved most of the album. While the two parties eventually negotiated a settlement, it signified that Frank may be having a little trouble when it comes to handling the day-to-day business of being an indie artist. By giving the industry the middle finger, Frank Ocean found himself on the fringe of the music business. While artists like Frank's longtime friend Tyler the Creator had become really skilled at navigating the award shows, interviews, and press obligations that came with being a superstar, Frank had pretty much shunned all of the above. He even declined to submit Blonde to the Grammys, which is why the album was never nominated for any awards. That's crazy. Frank's decision not to play the game cost him valuable placements on streaming playlists, but it also let him benefit directly by focusing solely on his fans. And honestly, that's the shit that matters at the end of the day, so good. But in 2023, Frank Ocean torpedoed his reputation in an insane way. Frank was originally slated to be a headliner for the Coachella Music Festival in 2020 until the COVID-19 pandemic forced the event to be canceled. 3 years later, Frank was finally rescheduled to take the Coachella stage and deliver a hugely anticipated comeback set. It had been 7 years since Frank dropped Blonde, and Coachella was famous for all-out iconic performances from A-list artists like Beyonce, Kanye West, Prince, and Tupac's Hologram. People clearly expected Frank to deliver something that no...
Talks about Kanye there for a second. I think there is a select few artists that can encapsulate an audience the way that MJ did and the way that like Prince did. Bro, 2016 Life of Pablo tour, Kanye West. Unreal. Unreal. All the videos from that, bro, why'd I have to be 10 years old, bro? Why couldn't I be getting hype in the crowd to Famous, to No More Parties in LA, bro? Like, why couldn't I be on the Life of Pablo tour, man? Little side note there. We'll get back to the video.
No one had ever seen before. And he kinda did, just not in the way that fans were expecting. Frank's Coachella performance was universally slammed as a failure, lackluster, and a disappointment. Not only did he perform heavily rearranged versions of his songs, but he was also barely visible to much of the crowd. There was a random DJ set in the middle.
Oh man, artists
said the performance was shut down early for violating curfew. Fans
that can ruin somebody's relationship with the music, man. That's brutal.
His scheduled second appearance at Coachella the following weekend, claiming that he had a leg injury. Behind the scenes insiders claim that Frank originally had planned a far more elaborate performance involving ice skaters. According to reports, trained ice skaters have been rehearsing for Frank's performance for weeks, only for Frank to abruptly scrap the entire concept the day of.
That's crazy.
Frank even demanded that Coachella cancel their planned live stream of his set at the last second, sparking claims that he was acting erratically. Some fans defended Frank, speculating that he was grieving the death of his little brother Ryan, who passed in a car crash in 2020. But Joe Budden wasn't having it.
Joe Budden's a clown, bro.
What the
Joe Budden's a clown. We don't need to hear this, bro. We don't need to hear this slop.
Stupid ass who ain't put out music in ages. And you can't even confirm if there's new music coming.
Joe even labeled Frank Ocean a scammer and claimed that his master finesse move against Def Jam had permanently damaged the industry.
He'll always wear the scammer tag. For me, that fucked up a lot of artists. He didn't care. Lost a lot of artists' revenue streams.
Yeah, that
he
fucked
didn't
up a lot
care.
of shit.
Took Apple out the game.
Man, shut your mouth, Joe Budden.
Frank may have beat the music industry at its own game, but it came with a heavy price. Like, his own fans aren't even sure if they could trust him anymore.
Where's the album? We want the album.
It's totally possible that Frank Ocean might be done with music entirely. Frank's focus lately has been more on his luxury jewelry brand Homer, with pendants that range in price from $435 to $1.9 million. In fact, one of Homer's biggest supporters have been none.
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine wearing something worth $2 million? Do you understand how nice a $2 million house is? And you're wearing that on your neck? This is the thing that just gets to me, man. Like, people that wear their money like that, is it really worth that? Is it really worth? You know how many investments you could have? How much nicer of a house you could have? I get it gets to a point where the people buying this stuff, like 1.9 million is literally just pocket change to them. But as the normal person, could you imagine how much 1.9 million is changing your life? It'll literally do a 180 on your life. And people wear that as a pendant on their neck on a chain. It's a crazy world we live in, man. It's a crazy world we live in.
None other than Drake, who flexed on everybody when he rocked the Homer's most expensive piece courtside. Drake even shouted out Frank's brand on the 2022 song Sticky. Frank definitely appreciated Drake's support because he cleared a sample of one of his unreleased songs, Wise Men, for the intro to Drake's last solo project, For All the Dogs. But Frank's diehard supporters have been completely starved of new music.
I want to talk about why I'm here.
A Drake and Frank Ocean collab would feed families.
Because not that there's not a new album, it's like
Frank hasn't dropped any new singles since 2020, and while he promised that he had new music during his disastrous Coachella set, he hasn't bothered to follow through. There's been speculation that Frank's the industry behavior, like scamming both the Def Jam and Coachella, has burned way too many bridges.
If he scams a label, like
completely opposed to working with
labels scam enough artists.
Even claim that Frank
goes both ways, right?
Blackballed himself. Just weeks ago, news leaked that Frank Ocean is planning on becoming a filmmaker. According to reports, Frank is in the process of shooting a feature film in Mexico City with industry actor David Johnson starring as the lead role. It's very possible that this could be the beginning of yet another Frank Ocean takeover, but the industry also may have learned their lessons and never do business with him again. Is it possible that we really might have seen the last of Frank Ocean, or is he secretly planning another comeback that will shake up the industry yet again?
Shout out to, I think it was Rap Lore. Shout out to Rap Lore. That was a fire video that he put together, going over Frank Ocean's kind of relationship in the rap hip hop scene right now. Pretty fire. Pretty fire. I thought it was interesting to see how he was just kind of standing on business this whole time against record labels. If you're seeing this over on YouTube, if you could drop a like, comment, subscribe, or if you don't want to miss these live, make sure you're heading over to the Twitch, MJGRPHX. I'll put it on the screen, probably right below me, or I'll also drop it down in the description. That's gonna be it for the video. Appreciate all of y'all.